From Music City, USA, it's David Hooper and Music Business Radio.
From Nashville, Tennessee, it's Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music industry. I'm David Hooper, your host, and with me today, he's a rock and roll survivor. Let's say that. Dave Bucket Colwell is here, and you've been doing this for a while, man, and still doing it, still out on the road.
I certainly have, yeah. I just love it, Dave. You know, I've always got a bag packed and a guitar ready, and you know.
How long does it take for you if I said, hey, man, I get a gig, you just ready at any time?
Pretty much, yeah.
I want to talk about this because when I was looking at all the bands you've worked with, Bad Company, Humble Pie, you were in Adrian Smith's side project, is ASAP.
That's right, Adrian Smith and Project, yeah.
I was thinking about the difference between English rock and roll and American rock and roll. And a lot of the bands and the people that you're associated with, like Mott the Hoople.
Yeah.
It's like we've heard of those bands over here,
yeah.
But those bands are like legendary and super influential in England. So I'm curious about you growing up and what.
Well, I mean, I grew up, I was classically trained, and I actually saw Humble Pie in Hyde Park when I was 17 and said, that's what I want to do right there. Yeah. And that started me getting into Free and Mott the Hoople, like you said, and all the rest of it. I mean, I've been asked this question a lot, you know, the difference between American bands and English. I mean, I love American music as well. I used to queue up at the record store and buy anything on Asylum Records, you know, anything, like the Eagles, Joe Walsh, and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I think quintessential English bands like Zeppelin, The Who, Humble Pie, Bad Company, I mean, it seems to me, even if the players aren't individual virtuoso players, like a lot of Americans are, it's the unit, it's how they play together that makes them so powerful, you know. And
well, American music is so raw, but when I think of like English bands, certainly Humble Pie, that raw, it's like energy, very primal, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, particularly in the 80s and early 90s, American bands, it sometimes seemed to me like there's 5 separate shows going on stage, you know, they're all trying to blow each other out the water. They're great players, but a lot of the English bands, it's the gel, you know, the Who, the anger, you know, probably came from them knocking each other out all the time, but... You know.
Well, one of the things, too, that I noticed, I was thinking about the discography of Humble Pie and how, like, a lot of American soul music, like, everybody knows the song, I Don't Need No Doctor, but it's an Ashford and Simpson song.
Yeah.
And how that influenced, so some of the writers were even coming from here, and then the British would put their own, or your own, spin on it.
Sure. I mean, Humble Pie in particular were such a touring band over here. I mean, they toured forever, so, you know, when it came to make records, quite often they hadn't, you know, written enough songs, whatever, but you know, they were masters at doing their own interpretation of you know, old blues and so on. And Steve was such a great singer anyway. I mean, all the people he listened to, Ray Charles, etc. You know, he just put it into a rock stamp, really.
I mean, even like James Brown stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah, he was fantastic, Steve.
And you've done a lot of this over your career. You've come into established bands at various times, Bad Company being one of them, and you put your spin on what they're doing. Yeah,
I mean, I've been very, very lucky, Dave, to be honest. You know, I saw Humble Pie, worshipped them, and now I'm in Humble Pie, and it was the same with Bad Company. I saw their first show because I've been following Mick Ralphs in Mott the Hoople.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I ended up being asked to join them, it was incredible, you know.
So let's talk about how you got connected with these guys, because I know we mentioned Adrian Smith.
Yeah.
And you knew Adrian from back in the club days, before Iron Maiden.
Oh, yeah. He was in a band called Urchin. I was in a band called Angel Street. And that was the pub rock days. So bands used to play 7 nights a week. We'd have residencies in bars. And so we were constantly bumping into each other and became really good friends and still are, you know.
Yeah. And what was that scene like? 7 nights a week, there were places for musicians if you wanted them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you didn't get paid much, but you did get paid a bit.
Was it a living wage?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like now where there doesn't seem to be any mid-league for bands. You know, you're either in the stratosphere or you're paying to play a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You know, and venues are closing down. I sense a little uptrend at the moment, particularly in in rock and classic rock. You know, the fans are so loyal, you know, and they seem to be open for new projects, like the project I'm doing now with my new record, Bucket's Rebel Heart, you know.
It's interesting if you look at another United States to England comparison, is that England is so much smaller geographically.
Oh, sure.
And the United States, there's some areas of the U.S. where we'll call it classic rock. It's still big. Like you go out to the Midwest. I mean,
I mean, with Bad Company, in the years I was with them, we've played every state in America 10 times over. I mean, everywhere from Alaska to, you know.
Just constantly on the road.
Yeah.
Has that been your life more or less for the last however many years?
Certainly has, yeah. I'm always doing stuff. I mean, if we're off from the band that I'm playing with, I usually get tied up with something else. I just did a tour of New Zealand for January. We did 16 shows down there. The bass player Rick Wills from Foreigner and I.
Yeah, it's like a super group.
Yeah, it was good fun, you know.
So you know all these guys, just I guess from your years on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little younger than Mick Ralphs and Rick Wills and Jerry Shirley and all that, but they all sort of take me under their wing, keep an eye on me.
So let's talk about that. So did that start when you were like playing these pubs in England?
Yeah, and London is quite a scene musically. It's like Nashville, you know, but London's so much smaller that you're constantly bumping into people. When Bad Company split up the first time, Mick put his own band together, the Mick Ralphs band, and Chris Slade was the drummer.
Yep. From AC/DC.
Yeah, Manfred Mann and all the rest of that.
With the Firm as well.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I guess Mick found out that I was a real fan of his, and his roadie was out one night and said, "You're the guy that really likes Mick Ralphs, you know, do you want to come and audition for his band," sort of thing. So I went down to a studio in London. Chris Slade was the drummer. Pino Palladino was the bass player, who's now with The Who and everybody else.
Yeah.
Mick wasn't even there, you know, but sat in the room was Dave Gilmour and Phil Lynott and Robbo from Thin Lizzy, you know, just hanging out. Lemmy from Motorhead. And I'm like, geez, you know.
Did you get nervous?
I just put everything on 10 and started playing, you know, and they just all started cracking up after the second song and called Mick and said, "We've got the guy," you know.
Listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music industry. Dave Bucket Colwell is my guest today. You know him from his work with Bad Company, currently with Humble Pie, coming to a city near you. I'm curious about these tryouts because you've had a few of them over the years. How much of it is musicianship and how much of it is like, hey, I'm a cool guy?
It's half and half for sure. You know, it's particularly some of the bigger bands. They're very insular. You know, it's kind of hard to get involved with them if you don't know one of them, or someone in the outfit. You know,
so you get somebody vouches for you.
Yeah, and I mean, again with me, it's like someone said, "Oh, you need to get him down." You know, and you know, we do get on well. I mean, we had some really hilarious times in Bad Company, and we are now with Humble Pie again, you know. Let's
dive into that. Tell me some about those hilarious times. Like, what's life on the road for a band like that?
Well, for instance, I mean, being a big fan of Humble Pie, I never met him before. Jerry Shirley was a DJ in Cleveland when we played there with Bad Company. He introduced us on stage, and I plucked up the courage to go and say, "Hey, Jerry, you know, I'm a massive fan of yours and the band, and actually I'm from the same town, and your mum taught me at school." Whoa. And he's like, and we're both the same like little guys, and he recognised my accent as being from exactly where he is from, Cheshunt in Hertfordshire, you know. And we just became firm friends then. So when he and Greg Ridley asked Bobby Tench to put the Humble Pie line up together in 2000, he called me and said, "Look, we want you in the band," you know.
That's crazy, man.
So, I mean, it's a lot of right place, right time sort of stuff.
Well, I wonder about that, though, but it's like we were talking about, it's like you're on the road constantly, you're meeting people, you're a good hang, you know, and people are aware of you because it's not like you're sitting in your bedroom just playing guitar and putting videos up on YouTube or something.
I mean, this Humble Pie lineup now, we have a singer, Jimmy Coons, from the band Cactus.
Yeah. And it's a super influential band. That's another band that a lot of Americans don't know. But if you listen to Van Halen, you go back and listen to Cactus, you're like, oh, that's where they got it.
Well, Humble Pie back in the day opened for Cactus, you know, and Jerry Shirley is very involved in this lineup, Humble Pie. He's not playing with us, for reasons that he can't really tour at the moment, and et cetera, et cetera. But he's like the general, and I'm his lieutenant on the road.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine suggested Jimmy Coons. He said, look, you've got to call this guy. You and him together will be like pocket battleships. Both of you pick the phone up. You don't wait for it to ring,
Yeah.
So I called him, and he straight away got on a plane, flew to England, stayed at my house for 10 days. And I said, Jerry, we've got the guy. This is really going to work.
So you were sort of picking the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you're that guy vouching. Like, yeah, he's a guy I can hang out with on the road. And he's a good singer.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm the one that's sort of been out touring the most out of these guys now. Like I said, they're all a bit older and they don't tend to go out much.
Yeah.
So, no, Jimmy worked out fine.
I'm curious, like some of these guys you mentioned, as you get older, they're coming off the road or something. You think you're going to be doing it for a while? I mean, some people I think are just, they're going to die with their boots on. As
or some guys I know can't afford to stop because they've got so many ex-wives.
Well, you know what? It's funny. I had Ian
That's
Anderson
not
in
me.
here.
That's not me.
Ian Anderson told me, I said, why are you still on the road? He's doing like 180 days a year or something. He says, I'm afraid if I fall off that bike, I'm not going to be able to get on.
Yeah.
You take a break, you'll just never get back to it.
The industry has changed as well. You don't really sell records anymore. So, it's done a complete 180. You used to make most of the money through records, and the touring was to promote the record. Now it's the other way around. You virtually have to give your music away just to sell concert tickets to make a living,
Well, I know a lot of songwriters here being in Nashville, and they'll talk about it. When a band is on tour, that's when they start to see those royalties come up, because that rejuvenates the interest. And certainly for me, looking at this interview, I knew you were coming in. I'm listening to Humble Pie, Bad Company, Iron Maiden, all these acts that you've been involved with, and that's just one guy.
I mean, Iron Maiden tour consistently and getting bigger and bigger. Every tour they go out, they play bigger shows.
So you have toured with Iron Maiden in a band called Samson.
Correct.
So when we come back, I want to talk about that, because touring with Iron Maiden, everybody knows how they tour. We'll go a little bit deeper into it and talk about what that was like. Dave Bucket Colwell is my guest. This is Music Business Radio. More from Dave when we come back.
Hey, this is Clay from Bully, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
This is Music Business Radio from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm David Hooper. With me, Dave Bucket Colwell. You know him from Bad Company, Humble Pie. Played in Adrian Smith's side project, ASAP, talking about touring with Iron Maiden. So you knew Adrian for a while, and that's how the relationship was. You were playing clubs together.
Yeah, sure. We've been friends forever, and Iron Maiden had a bit of time off, so just for fun, we put a band together called The Entire Population of Hackney, with Adrian and Nico from Maiden on drums, a guitarist Andy Barnett from FM, and we did the famous London Marquee and another club date. But whilst rehearsing, we started writing. So we had, some new songs we'd written in the set. And then Adrian went back on his mega world tour and all the rest of it. And I got a call in the middle of the night. They were in the Bahamas recording Somewhere in Time. And he said, we've just recorded your song, Reach Out. It's going to be the B-side of Wasted Years. So,
that's got to be a great feeling.
Oh, it's fantastic. And they did 2 other B-sides of the other guys in the band as well. And it was...
Well, it seems crazy to me, one, that Adrian Smith has any downtime, because when you think about Iron Maiden, and you're talking for 30 years, those guys have been on mega tours.
Yeah, he's been playing 15 years and fishing for 15 years. He just goes fishing when he's off.
So I want to know about going on the road with those guys, because when I think of Iron Maiden on tour, I think about Ed Force One, Bruce Dickinson as the pilot. So he gets off of these gigs and hop in the plane. Bruce Dickinson is taking him to the next, and I guess it's a 747.
It's a 777.
Oh, even bigger.
Yeah, it's huge. It's like two decks,
No, was it like that when you were touring with them?
No. I mean, I toured with them in the 80s.
Okay, so you were in a bus.
Yeah, we were jumping in the T-shirt van. We were allowed $10 a night for hotels.
But still a big tour, though.
Yeah,
they were playing huge arenas back then.
Yeah, and I mean, they rang. Iron Maiden's manager, Rod Smallwood, just rang up Paul Sampson said, "Look, the guys want you on the tour. What do you think?" So I said, "Yeah, we jumped at it."
So again, it was like a relationship kind of
Sure.
thing. Like they were familiar with you, and what's touring with Iron Maiden like compared to some of these other tours that you've been?
Well, we toured Europe, so I mean that's a bit different to touring over here. With Bad Company, we constantly toured with Styx, with Skinner. We toured with Skinner for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Foreigner,
Yeah.
Cheap Trick. So I've been, all of a sudden now I've got all these American buddies, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Nashville is such a great town. Skinner played here this week, and Bad Co were supporting, and I went down and hung out with Simon Kirke and Kid Rock, and I just got an email today from Brian Johnson from AC/DC saying, "Hey son, I didn't realise you were there. I was in the next room. You know, let's get a beer, you know."
I think it's hard to get off the road once you've done it for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, when you come back off a long tour, particularly, we used to do tours 7 months long, and you come back and you're like picking the phone up in your own house near the bed and like trying to order room service, and you're throwing your laundry all over the room until your wife goes absolutely bonkers at you, you know. This is not a hotel.
You got people helping you out.
Yeah.
Is it still fun? Like when you got into it?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't do it if it wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I really, really like all aspects of it. I love, you know, the recording with Taff's here, the drummer from Rebel Heart is here for a couple of days with me. We've been doing some press and what have you, but recording this record, we had a blast. We did it at most of it at his house on an island called Gozo in the Mediterranean. So it's good fun.
So this album, 20 Good Summers, I've got it in my hand. Mm-hmm. Tell me about it.
Well, I did a solo album about 5 years ago called Guitars, Beers and Tears, and I had 10 different lead singers on it, all friends of mine, including Adrian Smith, Danny from Thunder, Spike from the Choir Boys, Steve Conti from New York Dolls, and we had great fun making the record, but it was a tough sell for radio and press and all that because they couldn't get the concept. They were like, "Is Adrian going to be on the road with you?" I'm like, "No, he's playing to 50 million people in Rio." So for this project, Paul and I have been writing, and we said, "Look, let's put a band together for this, you know, with the same singer on every track."
Yeah.
And we've got a great singer, Jim Stapley, who is in a band called the Jones Gang with me, from Kenny Jones from the Faces and the Who, and Rick Wills from Foreigner. We had that band out on the road for about 6 or 7 years, so called Jim up, and he's done a stunning job.
Let's check it out. This is Bucket's Rebel Heart on Music Business Radio. The song 20 Great Summers.
20 good summers.
Good summers, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't want to oversell it.
No. We'll be quite happy with good summers. They don't need to be great.
Should've done
20 good summers on Music Business Radio. I've got Bucket here. Dave Bucket Colwell is his full name. You know him from his work with Bad Company, Humble Pie. A question about this, a question about Bucket's Rebel Heart. It's got your name on it. Mm-hmm. What is the difference between a project like this and some of these other acts that you've worked with where you're coming in there as, maybe after it's already established?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we wanted to have my name in it, so it's not totally a brand new thing. This is not a vanity project. We want to sell some records and play. So anything you can do that can help that, so fans of Humble Pie and Bad Company will know it as Bucket's Rebel Heart. But it is a different entity.
I mean, because it's got your name on it, so I'm assuming you're the guy. Like we talked about the tryouts, you're the guy having the tryouts and looking for the people to vouch.
Sure. I mean, Paul and I, we wrote all the songs together. Paul was in a band with me, 40 odd years ago called 720. And that became the New Torpedoes with Phil Lewis from LA Guns was the singer. So we've been writing a lot together.
When you're putting this together and you're putting these other projects together, it involves so many people. You guys are all busy musicians. Mm-hmm. How long does it take to do something like this?
Again, the business has changed. You don't get a big recording studio and get everyone. A lot of these guys that are on the record live in America. Jim lives in America, even though he's English. So we do the main stuff to get together, the guitars and drums, me and Paul, and then we had Rick Richards from Georgia Satellites recorded one vocal for us in Atlanta. Jim was in Minneapolis. So, yeah, it takes a time. A lot of the guys on there, I mean, Jim had his own album, and you can see Molly Marriott's on there, Steve's daughter. She was on Jim's album. The bass player, Tom Swan, was on Jim's album. They were all on Molly's album. So it's kind of, you get into a group of musicians that are going to just, really get on with it and make it happen.
I'm curious to know what you think about musical trends, what I'm going to refer to as classic rock, arena rock. When we come back, we're going to dive into that subject because it's certainly changing, but as we mentioned earlier, there's a huge market for it, especially live, like in the Midwest, the United States.
Yeah.
Still loyal fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Rock fans are very loyal.
So we're going to talk about that. Dave Bucket Colwell is my guest. This is Music Business Radio. More from Dave when we come back.
I'm Caroline Rose, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
From Nashville, Tennessee, it's Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music business. Dave Bucket Colwell is with me. He's had 30-plus, 40-plus years in rock and roll.
Yes, sir.
Bad Company, Humble Pie, just to name a few. I want to talk about where classic rock is now, because, man, when I was growing up, it was just fun preparing for this interview, because I went back and I listened to all that Bad Company stuff that you were on, and certainly Humble Pie. I mean, that's the stuff that influenced me, and I kind of forgot about it, honestly, because it's like not necessarily the stuff that we're hearing on the radio, but if you look at it, still tours well, still a huge fan base.
Yeah, I mean, the fans are very, very loyal, and as I mentioned before, bands are out on the road a lot now because of the way the industry's changed, but it's quite difficult for bands like from the 70s and that to get new material on the radio because people just want to hear the hits constantly and at live gigs. I think that's slightly changing now where there's bands of that ilk are coming through, like Greta Van Fleet or whatever you call it, and there's a lot of young bands, Temperance Movement, the Rival Sons, the sound, they got that 70s sound. That's how they record as well, but they're young and they've got the great image and scarves and, so it seems to be an upturn in that, you're hearing those guys on the radio sometimes now as well.
You were on Bad Company's Holy Water tour,
yes,
which that album came out, I think, in 1990.
Correct, yeah.
And grunge, of course, hit during that time.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm curious to know how that affected things.
Well, the Holy Water tour was super successful. We sold millions of records, and the tour lasted on and off for over 2.5 years.
Yeah.
When we went in to make Here Comes Trouble, the follow-up album, that's when Pearl Jam and those guys had hit. And you noticed a downsizing, in a crowds for our music because there was a whole new movement coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they definitely took over a lot of the radio play.
So, but I mean, because it's a great marquee name, Bad Company, we still did go on and we made a live album from that tour.
Yeah.
We came back in about 96 with a different singer, Robert Hart. We went back to recording in the very old way, like the first Bad Company album.
So explain what that looks like.
It's Holy Water and Here Comes Trouble were very much the Lexicon years, loads of reverb and multi-track guitars and harmonies and all that.
Very well produced.
Yeah.
If you needed somebody, not the way that I need you, baby, tonight. If you wanted somebody, yeah, the way that I want you.
Yeah, so we wanted to go back to a more,
Raw.
yeah, where you can actually hear the kick drum pedal squeak,
Nice.
and all playing in the same room at the same time.
Yeah, because it feels like a moment in time. It's
Yeah, more organic. That's
Yeah.
the word I'm looking for.
In the company of strangers, you find the enemy within. No, and the walls that kept you evil. Keep the faith from getting in the company of strangers.
So that's what we did for that record, and then the record after we recorded in Nashville. Half the record was old songs, but re-recorded with a lot of country stars here: Vince Gill, Alison Krauss. After that, I went off and joined the Jones Gang for 6 years, and then Paul Rodgers came back to Bad Company in 2000 and asked me to come back to the band, and we recorded Merchants of Cool, which is a live DVD and album.
I'm curious about that Nashville. I'll call it like a duets album. I mean, Bad Company, super influential. It's like all those bands we talked about. Their influence in England.
But, I mean,
Bad Company's our influence.
I mean, the songwriting in Bad Company right from the get-go was almost like rock means country. Like you feel like making love. The verse is a country verse. With the rock chorus and stuff.
And I've heard soul singers do that too. It's a good song. It's a good song. It's a good song. It's a great song.
So I mean, we had a lot of fun with that. Well, I mean, Vince and Alison both played on a track called "Oh Atlanta," an old Bad Company song, and that was a hoot recording that.
It's cool to work with those guys, I guess, right?
Oh yeah.
Because you got a Nashville connection. Your management is based here for Humble Pie's management.
Yeah, and I signed a publishing deal with Disney, who sent me here to write country music, and I was working with John Anderson, and writing some tracks for Dixie Chicks and so I was here for quite a while. Yeah.
Talking about Nashville, we absolutely have to talk about songwriting because we are a songwriting community first, and that's where it all starts.
Sure.
I'm curious to know, with your songwriting process, how that starts.
When I first signed with Disney and I came here, there was a bit of how can I say, a mix-up of who wanted to do what. I mean, they sent me down to Music Row with 3 appointments a day.
The co-writes.
Yeah, those houses,
Yeah.
And these, the guys down there work 9 to 5. I understand that.
Yeah,
And
it's like a doctor's office.
You can hear the guy next door writing in D, so you start writing in D. And I just called up the guy in Hollywood who signed me. I said, look, this ain't the way I work. I can't do this. And he's like, well, you've taken the money. You've got to do it. I said, give me 2 days. I'll call you back, And my manager here, Jim, he took me out and we met John Anderson, and we just got on famously, and he was doing a new record, and he's like, come on out to the house, Bucket, So I quickly looked up his catalogue and all, because you have to go in somewhat prepared, and
right.
listen to a lot of his big hits and all the rest of it. And he was from Florida, so I wrote a song called Sarah, which was about Sarasota, because it was named after DeSoto, his daughter. And you know what country lyrics are about. You have to have the double meat, and
Oh,
all the
sure.
rest of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's a
The
little bit
hidden
clever.
story and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this song and went down to John's house and waited for him to come in from shooting the hell out of everything. And he'd come in all covered in blood and fur like they do, Sat down, I played him this song and he went, "Yeah, Bucket, I think we've got something here." And I got a really good relationship with him, and so I do like to go in prepared. You can't come to Nashville like a few singers do and think they're going to get away with it because they've got a great voice, because there's 10,000 great voices in Nashville. You have to have substance,
Yeah. Now, how does that differ from working with some of these metal and classic rock guys? How do you guys come up with
Well,
like
I always do the song, I don't really do Yeah Yeah Baby songs. I mean, on this new record, Paul and I worked, tirelessly on the lyrics. We're both massive fans of Bruce Springsteen, and when you listen to his songs and albums, it's like you're watching a movie, so we try to do that. I mean, we do it in an ambiguous way, let people make up their own mind about how the song would affect them.
Yeah. I think those are the best songs.
Yeah.
I think because if it's too personal, people can't
Sure,
relate to it.
yeah.
You want to say, this is for me.
Yeah. Being a guitar player, I'll come up with a riff and I'll just call Paul's head, what about this, And usually we start with the title,
Yeah.
And,
Does it have to be clever, or is it just like a feeling? Or
No, it's just, it's about, at our age, it's about life and love and so on.
Well, that's what good songs are. I mean, it's experiences.
Yeah.
And I think as you get older, I guess you got more of those experiences.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I mean, Paul's over in America all the time. He loves it here and he travels around watching Blackberry Smoke and these bands that we really like. So there's one of the tracks on there. It's like every city that he was in, that is mentioned in the song,
Let's play another one that you wrote. 20 Good Summers is the album. And the band's called Bucket's Rebel Heart. So why don't we play the song called Rebel Heart?
Yep, that'd be great. That's our first single.
Bucket's Rebel Heart. Rebel Heart is the song on Music Business Radio.
Never followed the law, never followed a flag, never chased after money away. And I've paid the price, I've done my time in a prison I built for myself. Had to swallow my pride when I swallowed your lies. Finally looked around to see there's no one here I can trust. Wanderlust has got a teeth in me. Born with a rebel heart, something to believe in. My daddy was a rebel, I'm a rebel like my daddy too. Born with a rebel heart, only good for leaving. Can't cast this rebel heart on a woman like you. Moving around from town to town makes it hard to lay down roots. And the people I meet just seem to me to be hiding from the truth. Just a hometown girl to change my world. Lord, that's all I pray. And maybe someday I can shake off these rebel chains. Born with a rebel heart, something to believe in. My daddy was a rebel, I'm a rebel like my daddy too.
Hi, this is Thomas
and Christian.
We're from the band Phoenix, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
This is Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music industry. I'm David Hooper, and with me today, another Dave Bucket Colwell. You know him from Bad Company, and also Humble Pie, currently on tour.
We
a
are.
lot.
Yes, we are. We're in America till end of November, and then we start back out again March next year. We'll be doing festivals and stuff throughout America.
Got 6 shows in a row on this run.
Oh, yeah.
Who booked you?
He's sitting right over there.
But still, I mean, that's what's life on the road like?
It's great. I mean, we've got a good agent that's put the routing or routing, as you guys call it, is pretty sensible.
Yeah,
So
I mean, you just came in from Atlanta this morning. You're doing a show in Nashville tonight. I'm squeezing you in here right before sound check, and we're getting these texts they're already loading it in your equipment.
Yeah, and we're off to Cincinnati tomorrow, and then
so it's busy. It's a busy time.
Yeah,
and you mentioned earlier it's still fun.
Oh, it's great fun. The guys in the band are a hoot. You know, it's. Yeah, we're going to have some stories at the end of this tour. We've already got some. You know.
Well, we started the show talking about the influences on British rock and American rock and soul. I'm curious to know who has influenced you as a guitarist, because you seem like such a perfect match for Humble Pie because of the work that I know that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, Mick Ralphs, when he was in Motley Hoople, was my first big influence. I still play Les Paul Juniors like Mick played back in the day and stuff. Steve Marriott was a fantastic guitar player. I mean, obviously Peter Frampton was the lead guitar player, but you know, Steve's playing was amazing as well. Sort of mixed between lead and rhythm, which is kind of what I do. You know. Yeah. In Bad Company, sometimes I was in Bad Company with Mick Ralphs, but quite often I was the only guitar player as well. So you got to cover all bases, you know. Yeah. Paul Kossoff from Free, absolutely, you know, the top of my list, really. And I did nearly get to open for him. The band I was in were going to open. He was on his way back from America, and he very sadly died. So I never did get to meet him, but he's always in my thoughts when I'm playing, you know.
Those guys are one of those bands like we were talking about. It's like that, it's just that moment in time of that energy, and you felt like they were a band.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't just a bunch of individuals.
No, they were so young to write those songs. I mean, Andy Fraser was like 16, 17 when he was writing these incredible songs. I mean,
what do you think about, you mentioned Greta Van Fleet, which I guess those guys are, they've been doing it since, what, they were 12, 15?
I thought they were 12.
Yeah, they're not that much older than that. I mean, what do you think about it is like rock and roll and youth and like having your finger on that pulse, and then how does that change as you grow into it?
The young guys that, you know, I work with and know and see now, I mean, there's a fantastic band here in Nashville called Tyler Bryant and Shakedown, who I've seen a couple of times, and they've just got it, you know. I mean, it's just installed in them. I mean, the young bands have got every bit as much as enthusiasm as we had when we was that age. Yeah. And it comes across in their music. I mean, having Molly Marriott, Steve's daughter, sing on our record is great. I mean, she's got quite a successful career on her own, you know, doing her own records and stuff. Yeah. And she's doing all the backing vocals on the single Rebel Heart.
And the music that you're doing now, not only Rebel Heart music, but also Humble Pie, those songs are still connecting with a young audience. Who are you seeing in your audiences that you're playing for now?
I mean, on this tour in particular, because Humble Pie hasn't toured in many, many years, I mean, a lot of the original fans are coming, and they get so emotional when they hear it. I mean, one guy last night was trying to talk to me and get an autograph, and he just burst into tears. You know, he'd seen the band way back. But, you know, we're hoping to get some new people in as well, you know, and just carry on the tradition of the music and play it as best we can, with reverence to the band,
Right. Yeah. What is that like when you're getting ready to go out on tour? What are your thoughts for doing that? Because I'm sure there are critics.
I mean, you're going to get, there's always some guy usually stuck in his bedroom on the internet that just blasts everything that he doesn't know anything about,
Yeah.
But luckily there's only about half a dozen of them, and they're always the same people, and they do it to every band. But, if you're going to, diss it or whatever, come out and see it. Or if you don't want to, don't,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's something you get used to, being in the situation that you're in. When you're up on stage every night, you're giving it your everything, and it's always a critic that wants to.
Well, not so much live, because they don't come out and start screaming at you. These people just don't have lives.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, a lot of the classic rock bands, it's a fact that many of the guys have passed away. They're no longer around. So, you make a decision to keep the music alive.
Yeah.
Or not, I mean, with Johnny Van Zant, for example, has been in Skinner way longer than Ronnie ever was,
right.
But he's still treated like the new guy, It's like, what?
Yeah. Well, when you're joining the band, I mean, when do you feel like you're actually part of it? Because I would imagine that would be sort of a weird thing for you to step into an established act.
Well, the guys that ask you to do it, they don't treat you like that. They treat you as one of them. So it's just like any other band being together. They don't pull the sort of boss card on you or anything like that. It's just it's about the music. If you fit in the music and the person, that's all it's about.
This is Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music industry. Dave Bucket Colwell is with me. You know him from Bad Company. Currently on tour with Humble Pie. Were you always like a band guy? Because a lot of guitarists, it's like all about them.
No, always been a band guy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'd love some advice is like how bands can do what you talked about, like these British bands that would play together as a band. They weren't just individuals. Like, what's the secret to that?
Well, if someone starts, showboating and all the rest of it, you just smack them down and say, behave yourself. I mean, play for the song. That's what we try to do, is play for the song. I don't care how fast someone can play. A lot of the guitar solos in the songs I write are hooks. It's not showing off like flash fingers or anything like that.
Right.
And I've, been lucky enough to have been sort of looked up. I mean, my dear friend Rick Wills, from Foreigner and all the rest of it, he was in Bad Company with me for about 8 or 9 years, and his birthday's the same. It's the day before mine, so we're both Sagittarians, and just got on great. And him having so much more experience than me, influenced me over the years on how to behave and what you put in to the music, and someone like Paul Rodgers, for example, knows exactly what he wants the band to sound like, and that's why he chose me in the first place. So is
that how most of these bands work? There's like a guy who's driving it, and then you kind of follow him.
Yeah, you can't have like 5 leaders in a band. You've got to have someone directing it, otherwise it'd be a mayhem.
Yeah.
Some bands I've seen, just insane. I won't tell you who they are, but one particular band, 5 of them in the band, each had a lawyer. They had their own dressing rooms, and they were arguing New Year's Eve in London, arguing like crazy. I'm not going on before him. I'm not going on. It took an hour and 15 minutes to resolve this. I'm like, really?
Separate tour buses.
Yeah.
But there's something about that tension, though, I would think, that could maybe help the music. Like, I think about like the Beach Boys. Well, like the Beach Boys or the Van Halen brothers or Bush.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like there's that, maybe the Who even.
Yeah, I guess it works for some people, not me though.
It probably wouldn't be very sustainable.
No.
Not after a certain time. You're just like, I made my money.
Yeah, life's too short for that, really.
We talked a lot on this episode about how you're on the road a lot.
Yes.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Still working. But you do spend a lot of time in Nashville. A lot of people know you in Nashville.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it here, and I've made some really good friends here, and I can't wait to come back. It's like, oh, great, we're going to Nashville. Can I come 2 weeks early?
What about Nashville do you think makes it special? You've toured around the world and seen a lot of places.
I mean, the music here is amazing. I mean, how many bands play a week? 500 or something. But even if it's not a big arena act playing or anything like that, you can just go down Broadway and hear the most amazing singers. And I like to chat to them and see where they're from and where they're hoping to go and all the rest of it. And I went to a festival in England, actually, Ramblin' Man, a big 3-day festival this year. And for me, the 4 best bands were all from Nashville. Tyler was there, and Cadillac 3 were there. Skinny Molly with Mike Estes was there. Government Mule. They just, for me, were the best bands there.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like, even the karaoke singers are good.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I grew up here,
even
and
the
it's funny, I thought it was like that way everywhere.
The cab drivers start singing to you.
Well, yeah, not just the cab drivers are singing to you, but the cab drivers have had hit records. Some of them.
Oh yeah.
So
no, it's
everybody's a musician, everybody's a writer.
Yeah, I think the town did change when a lot of the big producers came here and tended to either use guys from LA or insist on writing 50% of the album themselves and all that. That hurt a lot of Nashville writers.
They found out what that publisher money was worth.
Yeah, exactly that. There was the joke, how'd you get a songwriter off your porch, pay for the pizza, Oops.
We're going to get in trouble for that one. Yeah. Well, I love it that you're bringing an edge to Nashville because, as you mentioned, our co-writing, sometimes it can get a little bit clinical. It's under the fluorescent lights. Yeah. And I like the emotion that the stuff that you're doing brings. And I like the rawness. And I like, as you said, the organic.
Yeah, that's the only way I can work. He's if I'm co-writing with someone, you've not got to be two separate entities, Well,
why don't we go out with something? I'll let you pick it. You got a big catalog. You've been on a lot of stuff. Let's go out with something that exemplifies who is Dave Bucket Colwell.
Okay, well, we've played a few rocky tracks from this album, etc. Let's go out with the last song on the record, which is a bit different for me. Actually, I don't even play guitar on it at all. There's a fantastic piano player, Sam Tanner. If You Need Me.
This is Music Business Radio, produced by Ryan McFadden, hosted by me, David Hooper. My guest today, Dave Bucket Colwell. And this is If You Need Me from Bucket's Rebel Heart. See you next time on Music Business Radio.
Rolling down the West Ferry, stare across the water to the big city lights. I'm wondering what you're doing tonight. Ask myself, am I still on your mind? I didn't know how hard it would be living apart without you. The days seem to drift, no beginning to end. How long before I see you again? I can't be alone no more. I should have said something to you. Why won't you call? Don't let me fall. I know it's time I show you a sign. Then maybe you'll call if you need me at all. Girl, can you see what you mean to me? It's about time, please show me your mind by making a call.